The time has come for changes. Well, that was embarrassing, wasn't it? Welcome back. And now, your lovely host, me, will be talking about that. Book 12 of the Dresden Files. Changes, which, holy crap. So when I started reading this book, by the way, this is all spoilers. Everybody knows this book by now. I'm spoiling it. If you haven't read it, go read it. I spoil these books, so here we go. When I was about 200 or so pages into this, I was talking to people in Discord being like, you know what? Other than the first page where you learn that Susan and Harry have an 8-year-old daughter, Maggie, I didn't feel like there was a lot changing in the series yet, and because I hadn't gotten to any of the huge what the moments yet. But that line, I was just like, oh crap, like he has a kid, that's not cool. And of course, Harry being Harry, he kidnapped a child of his. He's gonna destroy whoever and whatever he has to get it back. So let's talk about some of the things that happen in this crazy ass book that completely changes the dynamic of the series. So I mean, shortly after you learn that he has a daughter, you have this whole beginning plot, which is when I was kind of saying like, it didn't seem like a whole lot of things were necessarily happening that was abnormal for a Dresden book. He's in the Never Never fighting giant centipedes. The FBI is looking for him, which was odd because somebody obviously set him up to get arrested. They wanted him kind of out of the way. So the FBI, storms his apartment. He jumps into the Never Never, has to jump back, and then there's a whole hilarious scene between him and the FBI about how could I have disappeared? There was nowhere for me to go. So that was all the normal Dresden stuff, just giving the cop shit, being his sarcastic self to just about everybody. That was all really well done. Of course, it's Dresden, he's funny, and he can't help but shit talk everybody. There's this whole dynamic with Susan, because of course, Harry still loves Susan. He knows that, she knows that, but they can't really ever have a normal life and be together. She's, at any moment could become a full-fledged vampire if she gives in to that hunger and that thirst. And this whole thing with the FBI, there's points in this book where they're in an FBI headquarters or prison, and it gets attacked by red court vampires and the Ick, I believe it was. And they're just killing people to get to them. And they, concoct this whole plan to get out. And you have all this crazy stuff happening where Harry almost gets murdered by in a drive-by, and it wasn't even actually aimed at him, but because he was there, he ended up taking the brunt of it. Luckily, he was shielded, he didn't die. But then when they interrogate the guy that tried to assassinate him, he starts describing Susan as who hired him. So there's this whole thing of what is happening in this book. Man, I'm probably gonna forget stuff because I was writing so much stuff in Discord and not in my notes, and just there's so many things that happen, and fights and things that happen. There's a great scene with Thomas and Harry because, they're kind of on, I guess, bad-ish terms after what happened in previous books. And, Thomas being a full-fledged, white court vampire again. And he's always walking around in his silk and his leather, and he's suave and cool. And Harry's like, hey, by the way, I have a daughter with Susan. Red court vampires are trying to sacrifice her and kill our entire bloodline. So this is going to kill you, me, and our entire family. We need to get her back. And Thomas is like, I don't like that. There's one point where, and of course, throughout the book, Harry's learning, he's after talking to his godmother, that his mom had left him a present, basically, which of course is it's how to navigate the ways and sort of traverse the Never Never and kind of hop around the globe, kind of wherever he wants to go, which is of course convenient because they need to get to places quickly in this book. But at one point, Harry, because the entire book, he's just desperate to get Maggie back. He's learned that he has, a family member. He has a child, and he needs to do whatever he can to get to her. Damn everybody else. He'll burn the world down if he has to and live on the ashes with his daughter if he can get her back. And he gets basically, paralyzed in this book. His legs aren't working, and he calls upon Mab and finally accepts to be her winter knight on the condition that she doesn't call him to harm, anybody that he loves or cares about, but he will pretty much do whatever else. and she actually makes him kill the guy that basically was the knight until he betrayed her. And Harry does it. Harry murders this guy. He cuts his throat and becomes the Winter Knight. And it's just like, dude, I get it. Like, you're trying to save your daughter, and like the whole time Ebenezer is telling him like, Hoss, you can't just, like, in the whole White Council, like, dude, you can't just kill everybody and ruin these peace talks that the Red Court want, because anybody believes that, just to save the one girl when you could be saving millions of people. And Harry, being stubborn, is just like, yeah, but it's my daughter. Until, of course, he realizes and learns that it's this bloodline curse that's going to take out way more than just her. But everybody's just like, dude, you can't just save her and ruin everything. He's just like, yep, whatever, shut up. I'm doing it anyway. So he just does whatever it takes to get to her. And, accepting this power, there's no going back from that. And Mab loves it, to the point where they have this really out there sex scene. And he's like describing it, saying that like it's not even as if they had sex, because you can't have sex with a thunderstorm or a tsunami, and he's like, you can't make love to a mountain. It's just, there's just so much power, and it's just so different. And at the end of it, she's like giggling with glee, and she's like, you're mine. Like, she warns him too. She's like, if you do this, like, after I help you save your daughter, like, you're mine. You do what I say. You serve me. And he's like, yeah, okay. So then, of course, like, I'm sure I've glossed over and skipped over some parts leading up to the gigantic bombastic ending, but that, of course, is where the main crazy thing happens. I mean, you've already had Harry has a kid with Susan. Susan's a vampire. They can't have a relationship. Harry accepts being the Winter Knight. He kills a guy. Like, already so much has happened, and you're only halfway through the book at this point. And then, so you have, like, the team up. You've got Harry and Thomas and Sonia and Susan and Murphy, and Martin is there, and Martin, we'll get to him. So they have this whole plan to get to Chichen Itza and, demolish these vampires, stop the ritual, save Maggie, but they want to, like, get in and get out. And of course, like, right as they formulate this plan, they're like, and break, some, like, naked dude comes running out of the woods with a giant vampire after him, and the vampire's like, ah, and just, like, screeches and alerts everybody. So, there goes your plan immediately, of course. So then they decide, all right, frontal assault. And you have this basically, like, badass Marvel, like, superhero moment where they're all charging in against just, like, hordes of vampires, because there's hundreds of just these, like, basic vampires. They're kind of just, like, fodder, essentially, but I mean, there's tons of them. You've got Susan and Karen wielding Amarachius and Fidelicius, which I was thinking, okay, Susan, she's basically a full vampire almost at this point. She has that extra strength. She can wield a sword. I figured Karen would just kind of, like, be a person with a sword, but she basically gets, like, Holy Avenger powers and goes, like, Super Saiyan and just starts, like, cutting dudes up. She's got this, like, aura of holy magic around her, because I guess the sword deems her worthy to wield it, which was really cool. And then Harry, being the absolute badass that he is and just how freaking powerful he is, taps into the ley line under the pyramid and just, like, demolishes hundreds of vampires in one fell swoop. And I was just like, okay, like, Jesus, this dude is way stronger than I thought. So then once they finally get up to, the steps of the pyramid, and they're trying to stop this ritual, basically this, like, ancient vampire lord and his 13, whatever, closest, most badass vampires are there. And Harry convinces Ariana, who kind of started this whole thing, to a duel, that he is going to duel her. And of course he's going to win. Like, he's not going to die in the duel, and because the book would end, everyone would die. So he kills Ariana in this duel. And of course, douchebag vampire lord is just like, oh, well, I'm not going to accept your terms for the duel. Like, yeah, you won, but I don't really care. I'm still going to kill your daughter. Sorry. And Harry just can't help himself, just shit-talking this ancient, like, several thousand-year-old vampire who's way stronger than him. This vampire lord's will is so strong that he basically just, like, freezes everybody in place, and they're carrying on with the ritual. So Harry lets Bob out into his spirit form, and he helps free them. And then, of course, they are able to fight them off. And at one point, this is when Karen really goes like SSJ 5 with the sword and is just slaughtering everybody and cuts this vampire's face off, just like runs right past him, just like shing, just like the front half of his face is gone. So she's like killed this vampire lord that I was like, what? Jesus Christ, this sword is powerful. And then, of course, at like the darkest hour of this fight, Leah tosses some, I forget exactly what it was, but like tosses something up into the sky, and you have this like green lightning shooting down, and it's kind of like that moment in Endgame when Thor appears like out of the, gets his axe and then like beams down and joins the fight. That's what it reminded me of, because like the Great Council comes flying in and they're killing people. So they don't necessarily save the day, but probably without them, the fight doesn't go as planned. And of course, Harry and them do eventually win this fight. And I already forgot about the douchebag Martin. Rewind real quick. Martin was secretly an asshole the whole time and like comes out of the shadows and is just like talking to the vampire lord, saying like, I finally revealed myself. Like I planned this all along, blah, 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 blah. And then Susan goes ape shit on him and like bites into his throat. So at this point, you know Susan is going to be a full-fledged Red Court vampire, which is not great. But like as Martin is getting his throat eaten, Harry soul gazes him, and he actually sees that Martin isn't actually the double agent that we thought he was. He's a triple agent, because he was actually doing this all to get Harry to there for this exact moment, because, I mean, ever since he met Harry, told him, like, he would do anything in his power, anything possible, sacrifice people, it doesn't matter, to take down the Red Court, even to hurt them, because that's how important it is to him. So he sees, as he's dying, that his whole plan all along was to get Harry to this moment to essentially save the world. So after this happens, of course, you do have this moment with Harry and Ebenezer, where we learn, finally, the reason Ebenezer was so watchful over Harry is because he's his grandfather. So there you go. Harry has some more family, and that's awesome, but also at the same time sucks, because I feel like at some point Ebenezer's going to die because Harry's just going to keep losing people close to him. But of course, probably one of the bigger, I mean, we're already like 10 huge changes moments into this at this point. Harry and Susan realize that the ritual could still be used. They have everything there that they need. And since now Susan is officially the youngest Red Court vampire, if she dies, they can take out the entire Red Court bloodline. Rather than Harry, if they kill Maggie, that kills Dresden's entire bloodline. Susan dies, it kills her entire bloodline, which is the entirety of the Red Court. And of course, this is another one of those moments where it's like, if people say that changes doesn't have like impactful things happen in it, or changes that actually matter, Harry killing Susan and obliterating the Red Court vampires is massive. And the way it's so wonderfully done, because you feel the emotion, like that impact, like Susan understanding what has to happen, Harry understanding what has to happen, their daughter lying there on this like ritual table, and just the way that he writes this, just saying, I used the knife, I saved a child, I won a war, God forgive me. Like, what else you say about that, man? That's emotional right there. He's forever changed, man. There's just so much that happened to Harry in this book that will completely change his character. I mean, we had this whole discussion in Discord after, like, is he technically a good guy anymore? Like, he's murdered innocent people. I still think he's like the good guy of the series. He's the main protagonist, but like, is he a good person? Like, he's willing to murder innocent people. So like, where do you draw the line at, balancing all the things that he does and saving the world and, protecting Chicago and mortals from all these demons and crap that he does, but he's also willing to murder innocent people, or not, taking a life, like committing murder, not necessarily that the person is innocent, but he's murdered people. And it's just, it's a lot. He's already dealt with a lot in this series, and now he's dealt with even more. I forgot even Molly's soul gazed Thomas earlier in this book and almost died because Thomas would have ripped her throat out because he's getting all like vampire horny and stuff. So but yeah, so like the book kind of ends and that's that, man. I'm just kidding. Okay, so of course we have to talk about what happens at the end. So Harry dies. That was unexpected. And of course the way that they do this is just like, Jesus, man, what else does this man have to go through? So you have, of course, and I forgot this. Harry, I've been joking this entire series that Harry needs a new car and he needs a new house. He lives in a shithole. He drives a piece of shit car. His Beetle's gone and his house is gone. So there you go. He gets an upgrade. Oh, wait, he's dead. Of course, he's going to come back because there's more books. I understand that. But like Harry's out on Thomas's boat getting ready to go on a date with Murphy because they're finally just like, all right, let's just do this and see what happens. Like, what else do we have to lose at this point? So she gets all dolled up. He gets his best looking clothes on, shaved up real nice, steps out onto the dock. Bop. And he's just like, what? Why is there blood on the wall? Why am I wearing a shirt with a bullet in it? This falls straight into the water, sinks to the bottom of the lake. Because it's Chicago and this water is basically freezing cold and just Harry dies. Like, it's not even like up to interpretation. Like, the man is dead. And then I read Aftermath after this, which I wished connected a little bit more to Changes, but you do get that immediate reaction of Murphy and trying to, even cope with what the hell happened and being in denial basically the entire time. But Jesus, it's just like, so now, what the hell is Ghost Story going to be? Everybody says Ghost Story is really weird. So now I kind of understand, one, where the title came from, probably. And I don't know, people just say it's weird. So I'm curious to see what happens and how long of a time it's going to be. If it's still going to be like a year or two of like, because each Dresden book is kind of like a year later, roughly, I think. So I'm wondering if Ghost Story is going to be like a full year or two of him being dead and everybody just having to deal with that. And how that's even going to work as a story structure if he's dead, if he's going to like be in the Never Never, if he's going to be just serving as a Winter Knight, who knows? I'll get to it, but yeah, Changes had a hell of a lot going for it, guys. Even without everything else, like all the other 15 crazy things that happen, like your main character dying, yeah, that's impactful to the series. And I wonder now too, because I always bring this up whenever a character dies and comes back, because obviously he's going to be back, right? He's Dresden, he's the main character, like he's going to come back. I always wonder when a character is resurrected, how much of them comes back and how changed they're going to be. Because as we've seen it in other books, TV shows, movies, typically what happens is you lose a little bit of yourself. You're never exactly the same person. So I am super curious to see how that affects him, because I wonder if it's going to be like, oh, I'm back, and they just he's just the same person, or if it's really going to impact, like, does he lose part of himself? Is he lesser than he was? Is he less human than he was? Is he, who knows? I don't know where that's going to go. So holy shit, Changes was a great book. Definitely the best Dresden book, easily, that I've read so far. I mean, I also, like, I'm just kind of like ranking them in my head. But my top row of like tier, like S tier books at this point were like Small Favor, White Knight, and what was it? Turncoat was like an A. Proven Guilty, because I really love the end of that. But Changes is just better, man. There's so many huge things that happen in this book, and the scope of this story is so expanded. And then I just looked up earlier, like, how many books are planned in the series. The fact that there's 22 main series books and then a 3-book trilogy that's I believe Jim himself called like a big apocalyptic trilogy or something, and they're going to be double length books. So I take the biggest Dresden book and times 2, and that's just going to be insane, because like I already feel like the scope is massive now, and you have this huge power vacuum. I could talk about this book forever. There's a huge power vacuum now with like all this happening at once. Like, the Red Court's dead. You have the White Court, I guess the Black Court, other vampire courts, I don't even remember. You've got the Black Council that kind of took over the White Council. So who knows like what kind of alliances they're going to make. But there's this huge power vacuum now where who takes their place? Like if the Red Court were these big bad vampires, somebody's going to step in and consolidate power. Is Lara going to do it? Is Thomas going to do it? Is somebody else going to do it? Like, is Nicodemus going to step up and be like, hey, there's less vampires. Now I can, offer these other vampires more power to dominate the other courts. Who the hell knows, man? The Fae are stronger because of this now. Pretty much every baddie in the universe is stronger now because the Red Court's gone. They were a thorn in everybody's side. And so just who knows what happens now? And Harry's gone, at least temporarily. So like in this time of him being dead and coming back, what is it going to look like? Like that's crazy, man. Like your main wizard defender against these people is gone. And that's so series altering, potentially. So I'm really excited to see where that goes. But yeah, that's been my thoughts on Changes. It was fantastic and fully lived up to the hype. And wow, there was a lot going on in this book. So that's going to do it for this one. I do want to get to Ghost Story here quickly, so I'm going to finish up these last 2 books this month and try to get it in this month if I can. Otherwise, I'll read it next month. But like and subscribe as always. Do hit up Patreon if you want to support the channel financially. And do I even want to say any of this? You know what? I don't feel like doing that outro anymore. I'm not going to do it. Thanks for tuning in. I love your faces. See you next time.